Okay, so hi guys, how you all doing? I'm just gonna share this out a minute. I'll be with you in a minute. So basically, anyone that may be new to this this topic of where we live, as in whether it's a globe or flat, it's you just gotta think to yourself that there's never really been any evidence of it being a globe. It's all the evidence tends to be kind of refutable and kind of explained away. But people still cling on to it because they're desperate, because the reality of a flat and stationary Earth would kind of mean that we're a lot more significant, because we're not just a random speck of dust. And this is what people just don't get, or they just don't want to, because they know deep down the implications are huge. That if we live on a flat stationary Earth versus a globe Earth, but like I said, people will cling on to these ideas of outer space and all these distant galaxies, and they never really provide any proof of that they're so far away. And when people are asking questions, they get shot down because they don't get shot down. Their arguments don't really kind of get shot down at all. They're just that the people get kind of ridiculed for just for questioning. And what's wrong with that? We're not kind of, and sometimes maybe some of the stuff seems like slander against the establishment, but if there is a lie, then it means that that this establishment is deliberately trying to kind of tell us a lie. So even if they're not lying, it kind of serves them right, because the way that they explain things is they need to really kind of, because if people are starting to kind of question things, then they're like, well, it's it's true that it's a globe, so why are people questioning this then? So what can we do to try and make them kind of realize it's a globe then? If it's what we need to come up with some better to kind of convince the flat earthers that it's actually a globe, but they can't do that. They could come up with logical fallacies that don't make any sense, because they can be explained alternatively on a flat plane, like the seasons, for instance, and people just don't seem to get how these things can be explained alternatively, like if the sun's a lot closer and all that. And it's kind of common sense when you think about it, that if the sun's a lot closer and it's just a spotlight above the clouds somewhere, then it makes sense that it would only light up a portion of it at the time. But we can keep on going on for hours about this. I was watching because Wakey did a like a presentation. It was like over 2 hours long, and it's like if it were actually a globe, and how come there's all these videos that are hours long going through all the proofs that it isn't a globe, or refuting the proofs of a globe? But then it's like, why is there all this stuff stacked against it if it really is a globe? That's what I'm it can't be that all these arguments are wrong. What are the chances of that? That every single argument that a flat earther brings up is just wrong. It can't be. There's got to be some truth to it. Yeah, so I'm just tweeting this out. Alright, let's have a look at the thingy. Alright, Flatlander, how you doing? Stephen John B.A., how you doing? Jonathan Daltrey, how you doing? Everett Anderson, how you doing? Nothing wrong with questioning as long as you are willing to listen to the answers. Well, I'm willing to listen to any answers, that as long as they're actually kind of reasonable, and I'll listen to I've seen stuff for the opposing side, and I'm like, it's not conclusive proof, and it seems like that that they call us for not accepting that, but then they don't accept any of the flat earth stuff, even though there's tons of stuff that seems to kind of completely throw out the idea of a spinning globe. I could go on for hours and hours, but the purpose of this platform is to actually kind of that if people want to come on and talk about something that's kind of different, not mainstream, or whatever, that something that's interesting to kind of talk about, then they can come on and talk about it. But if they're going to claim something as fact, then they need to bring proof of it. And so if people want to come on and talk about Jesus or religious stuff, God, then they need to provide proof of that as well. I'm open to different ideas ideas. Maybe we're on the inside of a sphere, and it's like we're on a flat, kind of section within a, kind of much larger sphere or something, or on the maybe we're in like a honeycomb Earth, where it's like we're on a, like a patch of a sphere. And I will be honest, maybe there is some kind of cherry picking going on. I don't know. It just seems like if it were a globe, it would just be so obvious, and it's so big, but a lot of people that say that don't even really know how big it is. Some of them think it's like, a lot bigger. Some think it's a lot smaller than what it actually is, and even know what, much about their own model, how far the sun is, how far the moon is. Some people think it's a lot closer. Some people think it's a lot further. If flat Earth became mainstream, would that make it wrong? Well, I'm not saying that, anything mainstream is wrong. It's just, people should be able to talk about things that aren't mainstream without being ridiculed. They should be able to just things that are, but if more and more people start kind of questioning this globe, then it will become mainstream. And but anyway, think for yourselves. How you doing? So yeah, there's different possibilities, and if you don't cling to one idea, then it kind of opens up ideas. And maybe this reality is whatever you want it to be. If you want to be on a spinning ball flying through space, then good for you. But if you want it to be flat and stationary, and that and if that makes you feel better, then we shouldn't. But if you talk about science and stuff like, and which one's right and which one's wrong, well, the thing is, like, the ballers would have to admit, and the flat earthers would have to admit that we can only see so far whether it's a globe or flat, because of our perspective. We all have, our own perspective bubble, because we can't see further beyond the point because of angular resolution. So that is our kind of world, that is our universe as far as we can tell. And our world changes as we move. And so I'm thinking of this place as more of a realm than it is a planet. So I don't see it as like a, maybe it's not a definable shape. Maybe the flat earth is a psyop, but it's not what you think. It's actually that it's, well, how is anything flat? Anything with elevation changes and things, it isn't flat, because the definition of flat is that there is no changes in elevation. And if you're in, say, the Himalayan mountains, for instance, it's going to seem anything but flat. It's going to seem like the opposite. There's like hills everywhere, and it's like mountains, big, massive mountains. Yeah, so we can't, tell if boats are going over a curve, or whether it's just that they're going, kind of over a swell. Maybe, I just don't get when these people show these, supposed, ships going below a curve. Then, it's kind of, it's hard to tell. But how come if it is going over a curve, then you can still see things that are, way beyond that ship, even though they are higher up, but things are supposed to exponentially drop away beyond the horizon. So. But obviously, people can obviously interpret these things different. Some people, when they see a thing that should be over the curve, it's just a projection. It's just a hologram, what they're seeing. It's not the actual image that they're seeing of the building or whatever. It's just a projection of it. It's just a mirage. And they're fine to believe that, as long as they let us believe that it's not, and that it's, there does seem to be evidence that conflicts. I will be honest, but what I'm saying is that you can't just call us idiots for questioning it, because you've got to understand that there is a lot of things that seem to kind of be anomalous to the ball Earth model, like there doesn't seem to be any curve, or if there is, then it's just not what they're saying it is. Anyway, Sean G, how you doing? Scouse Anarchist, how you doing? So just because Scouse, I was wondering what you thought about the whole kind of thing going on with Dell and all that, and because I know, I don't know, you might be defending those people who he attacked, but because some of them are from the same area as you and all that. I just think it's kind of sad to see that people are falling out and kind of getting into drama and stuff. I just wish that people could just get on. I know not everyone can get on, but just if you can't get on, then just kind of ignore each other and just forget about them. Good Times for All, how's it going? I recommend people watch Good Times for All videos if they haven't, because if you're a globe defender, you might want to watch his videos, because it might kind of give you a new perspective as to kind of why sometimes we're not seeing the bottoms of buildings and things like that, and when people like soundly they have this what they call evidence of a globe Earth or proof of a globe Earth, whatever, then I have to kind of take that seriously and kind of looking at it and think, is there any way it can be explained other than on a ball, and you got to be honest, it does look, it does kind of look like it, but you then got to think, well, what about all this other evidence that contradicts that, and you get to this point where you're thinking, I don't know, the thing is, whatever shape the Earth is, we're all being screwed over. Well, the majority of us are anyway. We're all being screwed over, a lot of us, whether it's flat or a globe. The government, they're evil, and that's not, slander or anything like that. That's just basically calling a spade a spade. It's really obvious, there's people at the top, they're greedy. Because if they weren't, then they would be trying to create, some kind of, justice in the world. I'm not going to say equality, because you can't really ever get equality, I don't think, because there's always going to be someone that tries to kind of step on somebody else's toes, and in order to have equality, it would be of the kind of detriment to everybody, because everyone would have to be kind of conscious of everything that they're doing, and that would make everyone miserable, because they can't just be free to just do what they want, because they would just be kind of controlled. And all right, well, I'll have to watch that sometime. Freedom awaits. But yeah, thanks for posting. I do hope that people can at some point just kind of start putting this drama aside, because it all needs to be addressed. It all needs to be kind of sorted, and then people can move on. But some people want to perpetuate it, and I'd obviously be kind of suspicious at some of the people who will keep on attacking people who without any kind of proof of what they're doing, and just because it gets to a point of it's his word against his or her word against hers, or etc. And it's just really pathetic. Did Anthony Riley come back, or has he gone for good? Actually, yeah, he's a sleeping warrior now. Yeah. So if you, I'll just see if I can. So if you type in sleeping warrior, then type flat Earth in afterwards, then you can probably find it. Let's have a look. Yeah, do that. So make sure I'll just probably put a link actually, so everyone can subscribe back to his channel, because he's it's a new channel. So yeah, just do that. Leonard Reggie bro, I could find the curve. It was rather easy. If you could explain how you find the curve, then I'd be kind of happy to listen. P900 cool pics. Oh yeah, you told me about not told me, but told Adam that sleeping warrior now. Yeah, so you can probably go ahead and check out his channel then, if you want to go and subscribe to it again. Anyone that's watching the not live, then just type in sleeping warrior flat Earth, and you'll pretty easily find his channel. Let's start here with what path does the sun, moon, and stars take in the sky. So explain to me how that kind of gives you measurable curve, because we see the sun, the moon kind of get lower, but part of that is perspective, and the reason it kind of seems to go down below the horizon, I think is just an atmospheric lensing effect, and it's an easily demonstrable thing. I mean, I haven't done it myself, but people have done it, and it's pretty easy to do if you want to try and convince yourself that the atmosphere acts like a lens, and that's why when things kind of get magnified and they kind of start to sink below the horizon. I believe that's what it is. Because sometimes when you see the sun at the horizon, it looks kind of huge, doesn't it? Sometimes, and then when sometimes you see it shrink lower, and it gets that small, it just disappears before it even gets to the horizon sometimes. And there seems to be this argument whether the sun size changes or not. But on the heliocentric model, where the sun is 400 times further away than the moon, moon, the amount in angular size that the moon would have to change by is 400 times more than what the sun would. If you're telling me that the sun is 400 times further but 400 times bigger, then kind of the sun, the moon being 400 times closer, you would notice more of a the angular size would be a lot more noticeable. But then they'll probably bring up the whole kind of elliptical orbit of the sun, because it would change by about 3 million miles each year. So I mean, every year it would there would be kind of variation of 3 million miles. But there's actually a problem with that because of that the southern continents should actually be kind of warmer during the southern summer, because that's when apparently the sun is at its nearest. But it seems like the opposite. It seems like it's actually colder down in the south. Average temperatures, it seems to kind of be colder down there. And you might say, well, that's because of there being less people down there and it's not as built up. Whatever, I don't know. I'm just thinking of an explanation. What I'm saying is the opposite is supposed to be what's going on. Airplanes killed the curvature. Well, if it was curved, it would, the planes would obviously have to go over a curve, wouldn't they? They couldn't just fly straight and get to the destination. Well, I mean, fly straight for 3,000 miles or whatever, and then drop down a few miles and get to the destination. They would be out in space and like, oh no, it's because the atmosphere and all that, and it's being pulled around the curve, so it doesn't have to manually adjust for the curve of the Earth. This flimsy atmosphere that such a big, massive plane going so fast, it's just kind of nonsense, isn't it? I mean, that's how I perceive it anyway. So if anyone wants to come and join me and talk about any particular topic, because I'd like to maybe change the topic now, maybe kind of talk about really kind of progression and what we can actually do to progress things and actually kind of get it more people aware of any kind of ways to actually kind of affect more people, not in like a sort of brainwashy kind of way. I mean, we don't want to kind of do what they're doing. We want to actually kind of give people the critical thinking skills, well, not give them, but just kind of teach them kind of how to kind of. I know that obviously the schools should have done that, really, shouldn't they? The education system should have been able to kind of teach critical thinking, but the fact that they didn't should be an alarm bell in itself. It's like, why is the whole education system about being taught stuff and then having to remember it and then do a test about it, testing how much you remember. It's not about really understanding anything. It's about regurgitation. And if you become a good regurgitator, then you can be a good slave. So we should, we're not gonna, tell people it's flat. We're gonna say, what proof do you have that it's, that it's actually what they say, and get them to question it for themselves, and they start to think, because you just got to plant a seed. So if you go around, telling people it's flat, then you might actually kind of, get some knee-jerk reactions more so than if you just try and get them to question the reality that they think that they live in, So that's probably a way to kind of maybe it's a better way. I've seen some of the authentic, intense activism. I don't really agree with the way he does it, just because I feel like you should try and go up to someone and maybe kind of talk about how you need like actual tangible proof of these things if you're gonna believe them like 100%. And like I said before, maybe it's not something that we can actually kind of really know. I mean, because maybe it's not something we're supposed to know because it's whatever we want it to be, because the reality that we're in right now, the world that we're in right now, as far as we can tell, it only extends a few miles in every direction. So how do we know that we're not just creating it as we're moving along? And that's an idea, but I don't want to push that on anybody. It's just something I've been thinking about, that we're literally creating it as we're kind of. I don't want people to think that I'm thinking that we are gods and all that. But if there is a reason why they would lie, it might be that because when people talk about God, is that maybe that we are collectively God, maybe not as gods, but like we are. If we came together, we would be so much more powerful, I think. And they keep people divided for a reason. Because you look at bees and how they kind of there's like a colony of bees, and how they're all working together, and they create this kind of these amazing things. It's like, it might not look amazing to some people, but imagine if you were a bee. Imagine if you was actually obviously the size of them compared to us. I mean, imagine if you was the bee and you was taking part in this great big, like, it would literally be like humans that are like creating these huge structures and things. It would be like that, and people kind of think that we are somehow superior over every other race, but that's just part of the division, part of the division of because obviously these animals and stuff, they can't communicate with words and things. But if we stopped communicating so much with words, but then we would maybe become more. Some might believe that we'd become more telepathic, and we'd actually be able to kind of communicate on a much our communication would be so much less limited to like our species, and it would be we'd be able to kind of communicate with kind of other animals more so than maybe they do understand us, but we don't always understand them, and maybe they could be kind of beneficial to us as much as we are beneficial to them, and kind of thing. And every kind of species could be working together to kind of build a greater empire. That's what I think that they're trying to keep us from, because they're the ones that are building their own empire, by us, being slaves in every other species. And people don't realize that, all these animals that are being kind of used as slaves and things, that we are, as much as they are. And it's just people don't realize it. They're happy with their delusions, and they're happy with their stuff that they don't need. And if they knew what their potential were, and they knew what they could be getting, then it would be stuff that they wouldn't even want anymore, because they know this stuff that's just far greater out there for them to get in this world. I mean, they could be hiding land somewhere. There could be, this whole kind of Antarctic treaty thing. I mean, it's a bit suspicious, isn't it? And some are like, oh yeah, it's just so cold, that's why nobody bothers going down there. And as far as I'm aware, there's actually kind of, some evidence that there might be, some kind of oasis down there, possibly. There could be stuff going on in Antarctica that we're just not aware of. It could eventually, if you go so far south, it could start getting warmer. Some people think that, if there is another land out there with more sun, maybe, like that, eventually it would start to become warmer again. You might get to like another coast somewhere. If you go so far north or so far south, whatever, you might be, come to like the coast of like another world or something. Well, it wouldn't be another world really. It would just be all kind of part of the plane that we're on, or it might be a much bigger sphere. Who knows? What is keeping our atmosphere contained, or do you believe we pop out into a vacuum just like we are fed? Well, it seems a bit kind of weird how the atmosphere is kind of contained in itself. That's what the heliocentrists believe in, that the atmosphere is kind of contained in itself. Now, I don't know if there's some kind of barrier, like physically, or whether it's like an electromagnetic barrier, but it's kind of logical to think that there is something up there that's containing the atmosphere. But yeah, that's to me a good point. But they even say that the space isn't a vacuum, so maybe that's what their like excuse now, because they'll say, well, it's not actually a vacuum. It's it's close to a vacuum, but it's not a vacuum. Like, but there's supposed to be, like, as you go up higher, because the circumference gets bigger, because like how if you're on the inside of a track, it's going to be quicker. It's that kind of same thing, that if you get up higher, the atmosphere is going to have to spin around faster in to kind of in one day, because it's got to travel further in that same time. It's got to cover a greater distance to get back to where it started. So you've got like an atmosphere that's spinning around faster and faster and faster until you get to a non-spinning kind of low. I mean, some might call it a low pressure environment, but still you would get to a point where it's not suddenly stops spinning. I just can't imagine that, really. It's just crazy. So what's straw man? We're talking about, like, So what's the official kind of narrative then? Is it, because I don't know. I mean, that's what seems like, the claim that it spins around faster and faster as you get up higher, and then it suddenly just kind of, and you're like, oh yeah, because the pressure gradient and all that, but you would still have to get to a point where it's not spinning anymore, where the atmosphere isn't spinning. I'm just wondering where that actually is. Anyway, well, I don't think I'm spinning. So some are saying this flat Earth thing's a psyop. Some are thinking it's like a deliberate, it's a deliberate attempt to discredit the truth movement. Well, I have a problem with that. If it is, then nothing ever actually happened, about these, and I do believe that there is a lot of conspiracies out there. I mean, a lot of real conspiracies, that have been kind of happening over time. And to me, this is actually bringing attention to it. But what they mean is that they think that the flat Earth somehow kind of, because it's not flat, so therefore it's kind of going to make the other conspiracies look stupid, because people who believe it's flat are going to get lumped in with 9/11 and all these other things. Then people start laughing at the 9/11 stuff because it's linked in with flat Earth. Doesn't make any sense to me, because nothing ever actually happened about these things anyway. So, but then you get people who just deny that there is conspiracies. Why does pressure reduce with altitude thin? So I mean, I could just kind of I could just be a typical kind of average person and be like, I'm not a scientist. I don't know why. Stuff that people are working on, and but to me, this doesn't give you kind of measurable curve or anything to do with a spinning ball Earth. To me, it's basically arguing with things that are irrelevant to the topic. Kind of, in my eyes, is it's concession to that, because let's stick to if we're claiming it's a ball, then there has to be this definite amount of curve, because if it's a ball and there's this kind of and you're like, it's slightly pear-shaped, so it's not actually perfectly right. Well, it would be kind of good approximation, but even if it is a ball, are we really moving seriously? Like moving at 500,000 miles an hour through space? Are you frigging kidding me, man? Obviously, I didn't really think about any of this stuff before coming to this topic, and when actually learning about all these things, it was like, wow, there's people with these degrees and stuff that actually believe in this stuff and think this is so normal. How many miles is that every second? It's crazy. So if we're moving 500,000 miles an hour, that means that every hour we are moving like 20 Earth circumferences, and like about over 50 or 60 kind of Earth diameters, like every hour through the cosmos. But then I think they even said it's moving even faster in some other direction as well. How are you doing, YouTube? I do agree with YouTube when he goes on about how we should maybe focus more on whether it's moving or not, because it's kind of easier to prove whether we're moving or not than it is to kind of prove whether there's curvature or not. And if you can get people to kind of that understanding, then that we're not moving through space, then that means that the heliocentric model's thrown out. So then you can kind of go from there and think, well, if we're not moving, then what are the implications of that then? And there was that old UPIQ channel that, well, he's not a flat earther anymore, but still believes in that we're not moving. But a lot of flat earthers went and attacked it because he but I didn't really see his videos, because I was like, as far as I'm aware, it was not worth watching, because he was just gonna attack the flat earthers and try and ridicule them. If he believed in it for so many months, then or even 2 years or whatever he believed in it, then he was even more probably, he had to admit to being really stupid for believing in it for that long. And how are you doing, Sleeping Warrior? Yeah, that's Anthony Riley. If anyone doesn't know, I was wondering if you'd be able to kind of make it to the meetup that I've got planned on the 23rd of September, because I don't know if you know about it or not. Anyway, Sleeping Warrior, I can prove that the moon went behind the sun on the 2015 and the 2017 eclipse. I'm on with Mike Helmick tonight with a famous photographer to discuss it tonight. Cool. What time will that be? Why claim a need for this barrier? Well, there would have to be a point where it suddenly kind of met the non-spinning kind of atmosphere. I mean, even if there is some kind of matter going on in there, then unless you believe it's spinning for like our orbit and all that, it's like it's spinning even at 200,000 miles away or something. And there has to be a point where it stops spinning, and that's what I mean. If there's no barrier at that point, then there would need to be some kind of barrier. There would need to be some barrier to kind of separate that, wouldn't it? I was just saying it's kind of logical that maybe that, who knows if there really is one, or whether it just dissipates and dissipates as they say it does. So where does it stop spinning then? Where does the atmosphere stop then? Where does it stop going any further then? Like, is it a few thousand miles? I mean, is it a few hundred miles? I don't know. I'm sure I heard it something like a few thousand miles, but so how is the atmosphere contained in the and you'll be like, oh, it's gravity. That's what they'll be like. So but at what point is the atmosphere no longer, what point is it no longer pulling you down and it starts to actually push you out? Is it? I'm just wondering. There is no hard line, gradual reduction, but there has to be a point where it stops. There has to be a where the pressure gradient gets down to zero. There has to be a point. Why does there have to be a point? I mean, a distance from the surface or from the center of the earth, that might be a better one, because it would what I'm saying, if because they say how the pressure gradient kind of decreases as you rise up, then it would get to zero at some point. Do you dispute that pressure drops from sea level to 30,000 feet? Well, I'm not going to dispute that. I mean, I've not actually done a test to kind of prove or disprove, but there is less kind of mass per unit volume up there. So, obviously, as you get further, I think it will just continue to just decrease and decrease and decrease. What barrier is there to separate the higher pressure from the lower pressure? So, what I'm saying is, it would have to constantly be decreasing till it gets to like where it can't decrease anymore or whatever. I mean, the natural properties of fluid dynamics will equilibrate the pressures all by itself, no need for any barrier. I'm not sure about that, to be honest, because I know that the bowlers will then say, well, why does things, what's determining the way, whether things, why do things fall this way down and that way up? Why is it not why is it not the other way around? But yeah, I would like some kind of flat earther out there to kind of answer that for me, because I don't know everything, to be honest. I'm kind of just wondering, because I know there's different explanations and stuff like. Because then I can kind of obviously sharpen my tools if I can sort of have everything ready. So if I was to say have a conversation with somebody about it, and I start talking about how because then they're like, well, if there's no gravity, then why do things fall down and not kind of fall up, and what's determining the way things fall, and the way things rise up? Density cause liquid to go down. Please elaborate, Riley. I mean, I would like to kind of like a good explanation, to be honest, because I will be honest, the density buoyancy thing, it's a good, because it's what we see, but we need an explanation for why that, why do more dense things fall? Not that, because why do things fall because of the density than the earth, and why do dense things fall? That's what I want to know now. Why? Because I just after kind of some answers, really, because so. Petrol will separate from water by virtue of the fact that one is denser than the other. Nothing else is needed. But it's like the thing is, though. I mean, they say, well, why do dense things fall? Because if an object should stay at rest unless a force is. So what's that force if it's not gravity? Is the question that's causing the dense thing to fall down, and what's causing the lighter thing to rise? But yeah, I'm just curious, because I would like to know, really. And we got some of the bowlers in today, and weren't expecting all them here. Maybe there's nowhere else to go, so they kind of flock here. But I'm fine with that, as long as they're respectful and just don't ban them. This seems a bit of a diversion to me, because I would like to kind of go on to some other topic if anyone wants to kind of bring it up that's not flat out, because to me this is just kind of, it causes a lot of division and arguments and things, and it's good to talk about for so long, but yeah. Opposite of buoyancy. So you're saying that density is the opposite of buoyancy. Steve HV, it causes a lot of cognitive dissonance. Yeah. Tau Ceti Alpha, how you doing? Goldfish Brain, how you doing? So yeah, there's lots of topics we can talk about. If anyone wants to bring anything up, then let me know, because I can always change the topic if anyone wants to bring up something. Yeah, I'm still doing my meetup. Freedom and Weight. So while you're asking, you won't be going or anything, will you? So anyone, I just wanted to kind of bring that up as like a kind of thing to kind of discuss. So yeah, anyone that doesn't know, let me know. Because I'm doing a meetup on the. If anyone wants to come on it, if anyone wants to join me at the meetup at Heaton Park in Manchester on the 23rd of September at 12 noon. So between 12 and 1, we'll try and get everyone there for, and we'll have a few hours of discussion, and we're more specifically, it's going to be at Heaton Hall, so outside Heaton Hall in Heaton Park in Manchester. So you can go ahead and look at a map, and a map. Google Maps. It's not a globe, is it? Maybe that's like a straw man or something, but it kind of to me it seems like they're putting the truth out in plain sight. I'm not kind of pushing any kind of particular map or model, but I've been thinking that the AE map has problems and stuff like that. People shouldn't be getting attached to that particular map. It might be good as like a way to kind of introduce people, show them like how the basic concept of how it could work. Anyway, so Lottie says I've unbanned you, but as long as you're being respectful and people have no reason to ban you. I've literally got hundreds of all these like soccer accounts in here. That's ridiculous. Yeah, later, Flatlander. So we were talking earlier about how how we all need to work together and how we all need to kind of come together as a collective, but at the same time be kind of individuals. So coming together as a collective, as individuals, it might seem a bit of a like an oxymoron, but we need to be able to have the balance of both, of being able to kind of be cooperative, but also kind of be kind of individuals at the same time. And it's good that in this truth and personalities flock to those different personalities, which is good, because people different personalities will appeal different people, but as long as it kind of doesn't cause division, as long as we're still trying to work together, because we're all interested in the same thing, and that's truth. Yep, unity required. We need to form some kind of trust in each other. Well, the problem, obviously, if people trust each other too much, people can exploit that trust, because if somebody trusts in somebody so much, then they might start, kind of doing stuff for that person, and then kind of, they might start doing stuff for that person, and then that person kind of turns out to just be kind of using them, basically. They might have some other motive. You just don't know. Anyway. So what else can we talk about? Because there's lots of things that we can talk about. We can talk about diets. We can talk about how what are they putting in the food? Is it healthy? Is it kind of doing us good? There's many different things. Mandela effect. If anyone has any proof of that, I would like to know, because I'm still kind of undecided on that. Some say it's just kind of it's just a misremembering thing. Some believe that the alternate timelines kind of merging together, and kind of they're kind of being sort of like people kind of shift between these sort of alternate timelines and things like that, which are all a proposed food. What's all the vegan hype about? Ever thought about it more deeply? Qui bono, what does that mean? Flat Trotter SS, how are you doing? Yeah, cheers for that. Hope you're having a good day yourself. I don't know, about the vegan thing. I looked into that a while ago, about like how would you kind of be able to get all your kind of requirements and things, but I guess that anything's better than the diet that the majority of people anything's got to be better better than what a lot of people are eating, basically. A lot of people eat junk food, so how is that really kind of doing them very good? It's just so much to think about, isn't it? But yeah, well, the thing is, like, has anyone ever seen vast bodies of water conforming to the outside of a shape? Because to me, that would be a practical example of, this gravity having an effect on water around the sphere. It would kind of make it more believable. But they'll come up with these excuses that it's because the Earth's in the way and all that. You need a big planet to, kind of show it and all that. But then it's not scientific if you can't repeat it and you can't demonstrate it. So yeah, I'm not a religious person, by the way. Anyone that's watching, I don't attach myself to any religion, but at the same time, I'm not, I don't believe in the Big Bang and all that stuff, because if you're on a flat stationary Earth, then it throws out the idea that the Big Bang ever happened. The way I think is that consciousness creates reality. I think that the reality that we're in is a creation of consciousness. That's what I think of it anyway. I think consciousness is at the forefront of this reality. Without it, then the universe wouldn't exist. Yeah, I mean that's how I see it anyway. How are you doing, Sanengen? Jim, it would mean that nothing has existed before you were born, dude. Kind of weird, not? But no, you're kind of misrepresenting me there. You basically, I was saying if no one existed, then no consciousness would exist. So therefore, would anything exist? If other people are conscious of it, then it does exist for them, doesn't it? Their consciousness, to me, is what creates reality. Just because one person isn't conscious anymore, then it doesn't mean that the reality doesn't exist, because other people are seeing it. But if those people don't witness it anymore, then it kind of, yeah, right, yeah, see it P900 later. But I think that's more reasonable than that matter creates consciousness. That's where I'm at anyway. I just don't believe that matter has the ability to create conscious life form. So what creates consciousness? Well, who's to say anything creates consciousness? It's always existed, always will exist. How about that? Jeremy, that's a question for philosophers and metaphysicists. Well, I think it's all kind of ties in, but I know it's like, obviously, globe versus flat, that's more of a scientific kind of thing. Yeah. What about electricity equals consciousness? I've heard this thing that water equals consciousness. That's what some say, because they say about how water has memory, the whole kind of Rice experiment and all that water is able to, kind of retain these memories and things. They remember intentions and things like that. But what the claim, obviously, is that, there's, electric, kind of in our brain, and it kind of creates consciousness or something. Like, basically, the whole narrative is that it all came about by some accident. It was never really intended to happen. It was just kind of, it was just an accident. That's what, if water equals consciousness, how come animals and plant life has none? Animals and plant life? Are you kidding me? Like, animals? Of course animals have consciousness. I mean, yeah, maybe it's not the same that we have. But we don't even know whether plants, just because we don't kind of perceive them to have consciousness, because how do we know if anything else has consciousness? Yeah, just because it reacts to our what we kind of do. Like, how do we know it's not just how do we know that all the people that we see aren't just basically robots? Yeah. Motion isn't shape, that's the focus now. Well, duh. No, of course it's not shape. I mean, so you're saying that when people go on about how there's no motion, therefore it's flat. Well, that's obviously a logical fallacy. But, apart from that, there's not really much else that needs to be kind of said about that. So let's move on. How are you doing, Chris Hayes? No, but the supposed motion and gravity creates the supposed shape curved. Well, that's the claim, isn't it? That in the heliocentric model. But yeah, because we're going on about water before, and animals and plant life. Notice how our bodies and animals, mainly water. The Earth is mainly water, isn't it? So it seems like there's some kind of link think maybe we're of Earth. We are not of. I mean, we are actually part of Earth. Literally, we are. We are part Earth. Shall we say? We are because we are mostly water. 70 to 80% water, whatever it is. But then, the Earth has actually got just water on the surface of the ball, but it doesn't go down. But no one has ever, remember this, no one's ever drilled more than 8 miles into the Earth. So how do we know how far down it goes? We don't. But the claim is that we're mostly water, aren't we? All right, let's have a look at the what percent of us is water? Average adult human body is 50 to 65% water, averaging around 57 to 60%. The percentage of water in infants is much higher, typically around 75 to 78% water, dropping to 65% by 1 year of age. Body composition varies according to gender and fitness level because fatty tissue contains less water than lean tissue. So I think that's obviously you get all these kind of chubby people who are it seems like they're getting deprived of water because all the fat that they have in them is kind of depriving their bodies of water, aren't they? They can't contain much water in them. But yeah, I think if everyone was kind of kind of normal fitness, or whatever, decent fitness, then there would be those kind of higher end of the approximation, basically. So yeah, even at the lowest, it's 50%. So we're still half of us is water. So yeah, we're not mostly carbon based. Optimally, we would be mostly water. Jamie, Google carbon based life. It's simpler to explain that way. But you was making out that we are more carbon based than water. If you don't see curvature 20 miles high, there is no curvature, end of story. But they'll just keep pushing the goalposts and they'll be like, but you have to go even higher than that though. You're just not high up enough. But the problem is with cameras, they seem to kind of, some of them, show a curve, then they'll show it flat, then concave. So it's kind of hard to kind of tell what it is. You have to kind of stop it right in the middle where it's kind of level with the horizon and it's not angling downward or upward at all. So that's where you get that distortion. But what I was saying is that we are, most of us are mainly water, and that Earth is mainly water. So I don't know. It's just like we can only, we can go for months and months on end without, some people can anyway. Some people can go for kind of, I won't say months and months on end, but some people can go for about 60 to 100 days without eating anything really. So yeah, most people can only go a few days without drinking. So it seems like your body is more, desperately needs water over food. Switch off. If the measurements are right, math should tell us exactly where we would see curvature. Exactly. So there should be a, kind of, repeatable proof of it. And, if you're going to apply real science, real natural science, you can't get repeat proof of curvature because in different conditions, it's not showing up or it's not showing up as much as it's supposed to be. I only are 90% of the human body is water, or in my case, beer. So are you going to be going to the meetup? Because I know you said you might be coming with 2 other people. I'm not sure if I got a confirmation. 60 to 100 days without eating, and then it's got like a face palm thing. Well, I've heard that people have gone long times without eating. Let's just have a look, shall we? The longest somebody has gone without food. 9 longest records for surviving without food. Let's have a look. Number 1, 29 days. 2, 30 days. 3, 43 days. 4, 44 days. 5, 29 days. 6, 60 days. 7, 68 days. 8, 75 days. 9, 11 months. That's quite interesting, that is. So let's have a look at what it says here. This miraculous young man from Nepal was discovered when he was 15 years old, found meditating under a tree. He apparently required neither food nor water. I think it meant no water, but no water, and has sat in the same position for 11 months, pondering the very nature of reality, with reports of blue halos manifesting around his head and spontaneous combustion, complete flames flying from his eyes. In 2007, the Discovery Channel, Discovery Channel, probably some, kind of brainwashing channel, but whatever, made an entire documentary about him and blah, 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 blah. Since coming into the limelight, entire industry sprang up round the Buddha boy, becoming the main source of income from the remote Nepalese farming village he calls home. I think that's all I need to kind of say about that. But yeah, I've heard about these breatharians who don't even need water. I can't imagine people not needing water. I think that's a bit extreme. Even the people who claim to be breatharian, they do get some water now and again, like every few days or whatever. So I don't think they can go for too long without water, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he actually kind of I don't know if that's true or not. But if it is true, then that kind of throws out the idea that we need food a lot. I definitely don't think we need as much food as what a lot of people are taking in, but I'm not going to say that we don't need any. It's going to be a bit, I'd say that's quite a leap to say that, isn't it, really? Anyway, Iron EI. I'll send my friend another email and find out if he's coming. So are you still going then? Or are you not going to be going if your friend's not going, or what? I'm just wondering. Longest fast it's a long time, that's over a year. I don't know, where have you found that out then? I'm just wondering. Sheeps and Eeps, how you doing? I don't eat a lot. I can not eat for 7 days. Live 24/7 if you like. It's not that difficult. Cool. Yeah, I mean, 7 days without food, I think that's definitely doable. A lot of people that say they've done that. Definitely if you're, drinking water and stuff, but I know there's these, obviously you get these sort of, you get these Muslims and stuff who they fast for 30 days, and they fast for about 30 days, for about a month. But what they do is and it's probably a problem doing it that way, because what they do is they don't eat between sunrise and sunset. They just eat after the sun goes down and before it rises again. And what some of them probably do, because it's, they're probably desperate for food, some of them, because they go for a few months without eating. I mean, they go for a few months just eating just kind of lots, and then suddenly to be kind of going on a fast, they're going to be craving food again, and to not drink water as well, that would be quite hard as well. So these people need to kind of take responsibility and actually kind of not overeat at all, really, because they're going to really suffer in the fasting season. Right, I'll see you there then, Iron AI. Well, the parasites and bugs in our bodies get hungry, so they leave or die. We poo them out and we are cleansed. Interesting. Yeah, so they're either going to leave or they're going to basically die first, and then when they die, they'll just get pooed out. So it would be a good way to kind of cleanse the system, but don't just do it maybe not just do it once a year, maybe do it every month for a few days of the month, maybe just to kind of I'm not saying to do that, I'm just saying maybe it's something to look into, and then. Alright. Yeah, if you do it once, if you do it for 1 day, perfect. Yeah, sometimes I just love to eat loads of food. When it's there, I'll just, scoff. That's what I'll do, because it's just there. But if there's not out there, sometimes I'll not even really require anything. I'll just kind of not require that energy boost. And some say that they actually feel more energy, because when people eat, they go through a period of, low energy. They'll feel fatigue. So when they try and do exercise, any kind of activity after that period, they're gonna feel sluggish. They're gonna feel kind of fatigue. I think this is all important stuff for people to kind of digest. No pun intended. Because it's very important we know what we should be eating and when we should be eating, and because it has an effect on us, not just our bodies, but us, kind of emotionally. I think because if you don't feel good physically, that's going to have an effect emotionally, isn't it? And mentally and all that. It's going to have a bad effect. Agreed. Life is full of cheaters, though. So what do we do?
I know one person done 34 days and he does not lie. That itself is quite impressive. Well, yeah, that is quite impressive. I don't know if these people that have supposedly done it for months and months and months on end, or actually kind of whether they cheated at all, whether they had a sneaky sip of water, or like a sneaky chip or something. Kind of now and again. I just don't know. Suppose if you're out in a desert, you would kind of need more probably, because you'd obviously sweat a lot more, and that would release the water from your body, and that would probably contain some kind of some of the kind of food in it and stuff like that, and you'd probably feel hungry. But who knows? I very rarely get a cold or a flu. I'm probably underweight according to the norm, but I don't get any lighter, so this is my ideal weight, I guess, natural weight. Yeah, I think people should just do what they feel is right for them, and don't listen to any other person who says, oh, this is the norm, so therefore you should try and strive to be that way. Because if you seem to be underweight but you're feeling good at that weight, then you don't need to do what they tell you, because you know yourself more than anyone else knows you. You know yourself more than what a doctor knows you. It's don't I'm not saying don't take doctor's advice or like that. I'm just saying that listen to what your body's telling you, and if you need a doctor for some advice or whatever, then just do what you feel you need to do. Sant Ingen 2. I fast for 48 hours once a month. They say it's good for your cells. Possibly stuff I'd have to look into more. I'm sure they drink. Fasting means not eating. Drinking is a must, otherwise one dies. Some drink water with salt. Now that might be a good idea if you can try and drink water with salt. That might be a good thing to do, but don't do too much. So obviously just put a bit of salt in and just try and get what you need, but not any more, because then it's all waste and it's gonna maybe have a bad effect. If you got too much, it will come back up immediately. Obviously when people are being sick, it's just to kind of purge out any kind of toxins or like that. People probably surprised when they're kind of sick when they've been drinking and stuff, and it's all the crap that goes into the alcohol. There's so much toxic stuff in the alcohol, and your body just wants to just reject it because it's no good for it at all. Obviously your body can deal with so much of it, and it will just go through and it will come out the other end. But if you put too much of the toxic stuff in, your body will just purge it back out. But what can we talk about? I don't know. I don't know how much longer I'll be on here for, but I might just go for a bit of a walk, actually. I don't know, but it looks a bit dull today, but just want to get out for a bit. I think I'm not going to be staying in here all day. Inside. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I might just go out in the fresh air and stuff, just kind of go for a bit of a walk, because, But yeah, I recommend everyone to just, not get too caught up in all this drama and stuff. Just kind of don't pay too much attention. Don't, kind of get too caught up in it, really. Just kind of try and focus on developing yourself and helping other people to develop themselves as well. That's what we're all here for. It's about enlightenment. It's about empowerment. It's about those different things, isn't it? So yeah, I'm just going to put a link to the other channel in case anybody's not already subscribed to it. So I'm just going to put a link. I'll just put a link to my main channel. Just bear with me a second. In chat. I doubt there'll be anyone that's not subscribed to it, but just in case. Anyway, yeah, cheers everyone for coming on. It's good to have a chat with you guys and try and figure stuff out. And because when people, even people on the opposing side, they can give you stuff to think about, and you can just take it as, kind of something to try and, something that kind of challenges you, really. Something that kind of challenges your beliefs and what have you. It's always good to hear someone else's perspective and try and kind of take that on board and try and kind of apply it to whatever research you're kind of doing. And obviously I need to kind of focus on maybe new areas of research and kind of figuring out where I need to go next with research and things, because I'm at this obviously flat earth stuff, and it's like I'm kind of stuck with obviously the research at the moment. Where can I go? What other stuff is there to research that maybe even bigger or as big, topics to kind of explore maybe. But yeah, have a good day, everybody, and I'll talk to everyone again later sometime. I'll fire up in another one, probably usually Saturday. But yeah, that's probably the most likely time I'll be doing another one. But yeah, till next time, guys. Peace.